Good evening and welcome to the program. I'm Jason Unruhe. Here are some of the stories that I'm following today. U.S. President Trump has ordered the assembling of 800 soldiers to the border with Mexico in an attempt to stop thousands of refugees from entering the country. Trump called this situation a national emergency that demanded bringing out the military. Israeli warplanes have carried out new airstrikes against the besieged Gaza Strip, bombarding the west and the south of the enclave. The U.S. stock market has suffered in the last few days a massive correction. Experts are warning that the meltdown is a result of fiscal policy and the ongoing trade wars with long-standing allies. TV Ontario is threatening legal action against a former employee who they accuse of using an unauthorized parody of their character Pokeroo named Tokeroo. The goal of the character was to raise awareness of the now legalized marijuana in Canada. Now, the top story tonight is the order by U.S. President Donald Trump to send 800 U.S. soldiers to the border with Mexico in order to stop the migrant caravan from entering the country. Now, this information was given from an anonymous source and sent to the Associated Press. It appears that the order has already been given and the troops are reportedly on their way. Now, it was previously reported that U.S. President Donald Trump did say that he would consider using some kind of action, a military force, in order to prevent the caravan from entering the country. As you recall, in many situations in the past, when asked about it, it did say that he was willing to use not only straight-up force, but also threatened other countries if they let the migrant caravan pass through. Now, Trump did call it a national emergency that justified bringing out the military. Brandon Judd of the National Border Patrol Council is right when he says on Fox and Friends that the Democrat-inspired laws make it tough for us to stop people at the border. Must be changed. I am bringing out the military for this national emergency. They will be stopped. Now, it should be noted that the previous administration of Obama and the Democrats were also very keen on deporting people. And in fact, human rights groups did eventually give Obama the title of Deporter-in-Chief for the fact that he had broken records in deporting people from the country. Now, it seems very likely, despite the rhetoric that's coming out of many news sources, it seemed unlikely that any kind of force or any kind of weapons will be used. Now, there is a law from the 1870s which forbids the U.S. military from acting as police inside the country. Now, there are certain exceptions to this, particularly a state of emergency kind of situation, a martial law, essentially. Well, in this case, we don't have a declaration of martial law, but it seems like that they won't be used in this particular situation. U.S. law enforcement officials have arrested almost 17,000 people trying to cross the southern border in September, up 31% from August. A total of 397,000 migrants were arrested in the 2018 fiscal year, which ended in September, a marked increase over the 304,000 apprehended in 2017. Now, it's impossible to deny in this situation that U.S. President Donald Trump is treating these people as a national security threat by even going so far as to bring in the military, which almost sounds like a veiled threat of violence against any individuals who would seek to try to enter the United States, like he's threatening to use lethal force. Now, obviously, such an attack, an action by a U.S. president would be absolutely abhorrent. To simply gun down innocent people who are just trying to get into the country. Although it must be noted that much of his support base, does not believe this, and in fact they see it very much as an invasion by foreign troops, calling them criminals, rapists, and much of the rhetoric that Donald Trump himself used throughout his presidential campaign. In this situation, the leaking of this information and then confirmed by his tweet was very important, although it'll be extremely important for many human rights organizations to keep a watch over this situation. Israeli media has said that fighter jets hit 8 targets belonging to the Hamas resistance movement near the towns of Khan Yunis and Rafah, besides other targets early on Thursday morning. There were no immediate reports of casualties. The Israeli military chief claimed the strikes were carried out in response to a rocket fired from the besieged sliver. It also said the projectile landed in an open field after the regime's Iron Dome missile system failed to intercept it. Early on Wednesday, Israel's Air Force also struck an area in Gaza which it claimed was used to launch incendiary balloons into the occupied territories. Tel Aviv bombards Gaza from time to time, claiming the assaults are in response to the rocket attacks of resistance groups. The Gaza Strip has been witnessing tension since March 30th, which marked the start of the Great March of Return protests demanding the right of return for Palestinians driven out of their homeland. Those tensions saw a sharp rise on May 14th, marking the 70th anniversary of Nakba Day, or the Day of Catastrophe, which coincided with the U.S. Embassy relocation from Tel Aviv to occupy Jerusalem Al-Quds. Now, the stock market is facing a correction right now, and that's a nice way of saying a crash. Essentially, all of the policies put forward by U.S. President Donald Trump that were considered a boon are now considered to be backfiring. American equities faced another major sell-off on Wednesday. It was one of the worst trading sessions for U.S. stocks in years, erasing all gains seen since 2018. Analysts named President Donald Trump's trade wars as one of the reasons. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 608 points to 2.8% to 24,538.42. The S&P 500 plunged 84.59 points, or 3.1%, to 2,656.10, marking the sixth straight losing session. Meanwhile, the Nasdaq Composite Index dipped 329.14 points, or 4.4%, to 7,108.4. Many analysts blame sharp fiscal policy by the United States, including the rising of interest rates, and the primarily responsible is the trade wars that President Trump has carried out against many of the long-standing allies of the United States. The retaliatory measures by many of these countries has certainly harmed the economy to some degree, though other analysts point out that the sudden supply shock, that is the reduction of imports as a result of the price, or the sudden increase in cost of getting a hold of these materials for U.S. manufacturing, has caused this major disruption and has harmed profits, harmed the bottom line of many companies. It should also be noted that much of the recent growth that was seen in the United States, particularly with regards to the stock market on the stock exchange, was as a result of debt-fueled growth. That means a lot of people were borrowing money in order to increase the value of various assets. So this was something that was largely being done by Wall Street itself to inflate the prices of their stocks, which eventually led to stock buybacks. And as well as this, much consumer credit has also been taken out as a result in order to make ends meet. So much of the growth that has been seen in the United States has been largely due to the increase of credit, that is, money owing. There has not been a corresponding increase in the earnings of many of the U.S. citizens, which would eventually be used to pay back much of this debt. Switching to entertainment news in Ontario, the provincial state broadcaster TVO has threatened a lawsuit against a former employee of the television station which played the man who was inside the costume of beloved character Pokeroo. Now, this man spent 2 decades playing that character. Now, recently, he took to the streets inside of a park with what TVO claims is a similar-looking character based off of their concept, Pokeroo, which was rewritten as the character Tokaroo. The idea was to raise awareness of the recently legalized marijuana. Now, TVO says that it is an unauthorized parody, and they have filed a cease and desist order. While we can understand the nostalgia, TVO does not endorse this parody of Pokeroo or the fact that it is being associated with an activity that is neither legal for children nor recommended for use by children. We are asking Mark Scott to take appropriate action to stop the use of this character. Now, Scott has said that he is not going to stop using the character and feels that it's well known that he's not affiliated with TVO, that TVO has nothing to do with this character that he's playing. And he also says that any similarity between the two, his character and the one he played for TVO, was purely coincidental. Now, it's interesting that should this actually proceed to court, should TVO actually take Smith to court, it's very, Scott to court, it seems very unlikely that they would achieve any kind of victory, because in their official statement, they have already stated that it is a parody. They claim it's a parody. A parody is protected by free speech. It is protected by fair use, if this were the case. However, Scott does claim that any similarities are purely coincidental and that one has nothing to do with the other. However, I do think it's kind of funny that in this situation, the character, Pokeroo, was always a very large, colorful creature that would appear to only one character on the show and no one else, certainly giving the kind of appearance that Pokeroo himself may have been some kind of hallucination. And that's it for today. I will be back tomorrow with more news stories. Goodbye for now. Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.